Awakening with Brahma Kumaris.
Namaskar and a very warm welcome to Awakening with Brahma Kumaris. Life is beautiful, yes. Now I can notice the nature around me. Leaves have become green, sky is blue, birds are chirping, kids are playing, wind is blowing, I can feel it on my face. And suddenly I realize that I'm a new being because I know myself. The relationship with God is strengthening. And when I am with myself or with God, things are good, beautiful, comfortable. But still, the moment I am with others, something or the other happens and I realize that things are not good still. I can still feel and realize that there is jealousy, competitiveness, greed, and I'm not able to face it. So let's try to explore these things, why they are happening in my relationships. And as always, it's a privilege to have with us Brahma Kumaris Sr Jayanti, who will take us through this journey. She is the European Director of Brahma Kumaris and also the NGO representative at United Nations in Geneva.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Namaskar and a very warm welcome. Things have really taken a leap. I may be taking just one step each moment, each day, but then I can feel it. The difference, the peace within me. But still, Sister Jayanti, when I'm with people, one thing which has happened is that I've become much more aware of my own negative human aspects, those negative human emotions. I can see it. I'm not able to transform them, because they really, at times, earlier it was like I never thought I can be jealous. I never thought I'm greedy. I never thought I have that competitive spirit, that I am in competition with others. But now actually they hit me very strongly.
Right.
And I don't know what to do.
Well, the big step is that there's a realization that this is what I have to change within myself, because otherwise the lack of clarity for the self or even lack of honesty with the self means that I can't even take a step forward for transformation. So you've come a very good way forward. And then the question, of course, how do I deal with this? There was something very interesting I heard about jealousy many years ago, and it had never crossed my mind that these two things were linked. And Daddy Janki told me, the root cause of jealousy is laziness. It was my reaction too. And then she explained, say for example, wherever it is you've arrived at, whatever you're doing now, I could do the same if I was willing to work for it. Nobody's stopping me, there's all opportunity, there's enough things happening in the world for everyone to live together and everyone to have a piece of the cake. Why should I want your piece of the cake? But it's because I'm too lazy to work for my own bit. A story that illustrates this very well is a friend was telling me how she'd been standing in London. You have these semi-detached 2 up, 2 down houses. And so she was standing upstairs in her bedroom, looking out of the window. Must have been around October time. That's right, it was around October time. And at that time she saw the lady next door working very hard in her garden. She was digging and she was removing the earth and the weeds had come out, and she was then putting in these bulbs and seeds, and she'd spent all afternoon working. And she'd been watching her. First she'd come in, she'd seen her. A few hours later, she still saw her working hard away at it, and she thought, goodness, I don't have that sort of energy. A few months later come the spring. Then she looked into her garden again, and she saw this neighbor's garden filled with those beautiful spring flowers. All the bulbs had blossomed. And she looked at her own patch, and it was nothing but weeds. And she thought, oh, I wish my garden was like that. And then she remembered that, but I saw her working so hard, and I didn't want to do the same. And so now I'm seeing the beauty of her garden, and I'm seeing nothing in mine. But it's because she worked for it, and I could have done the same. And so it made me really understand this whole aspect that it's because I'm not willing to do something myself, and because of that laziness, maybe not in terms of my physical energy, but maybe I'm not willing to put in the work that's needed on an inner level. And so I'm seeing the results that somebody's achieved, but I could do the same, or I could do even better. So actually there's no reason to be jealous. I live with a woman who's now 92 years old, and her awareness is that of an 18-year-old, and her living her normal working hours, because she's still serving and working and doing so much, her working hours are around 18 hours a day still. And people who travel with her, who might be a third of her age, they get exhausted, and she'll still keep going. And it's because she has never allowed herself to see any limits. Age is not a limit. There is no limitation to opportunity. I just have to wake up inside. And the thing about meditation is that as I begin to experience God's love for me, I begin to love myself and value myself. And then I can see what it is I have that I can offer to the world. And instead of complaining about somebody else's fortune, if I start using the assets that I have, you're not the same as somebody else. But then the other side is that they don't have what I have. And if I can start using what I have in a positive, creative way, then the fortune and blessings that come to me from that are going to make me very full and content. There's a very important lesson I learned. Let my thoughts be worthwhile. Let my time be used in a worthwhile way. The greatest treasures that I have are the treasures of my thoughts and the treasure of time. And if I can use these today in a worthwhile way, my future is guaranteed, my fortune is fixed, no problem at all. Opportunity or not in the past, but today this is what is available for me.
Let's come to that aspect of my life which I'm not very sure whether it is positive or negative, is healthy competition. We call competition as healthy competition is good, but unhealthy competition, when you really want to win by hook or by crook, is bad. I want to ask you, what exactly is meant by competition, When I'm in competition and with whom I can be in competition, and when is it that competition is healthy?
When there's this whole concept of somebody wins and somebody loses, then it's not a very healthy situation. But we've come to understand that what we have to do is to find ways in which it's win and win, so that it's not that anyone loses. And there was a time when you were playing cricket or you're playing tennis, and really it was the game that mattered. It wasn't the end result that mattered.
No, but then all the sports competition,
yes,
all the reality shows, like it's a do and die situation, yes. And I'll give my arm, I'll give everything I have to win, because I'll give my life to win. Is it right?
I don't think so. I think that what is needed in the world today is actually cooperation. And there's 3 different stages. There's a stage of conflict, which is totally negative. Then there's a stage of competition, in which you're not supporting each other. Whereas in fact, if you're part of a game, then you're enjoying together. You're creating an atmosphere of lightness and joy. But when it's just competitiveness, then there's a brutal streak in which you don't care for the other. And then it's just me and I that wants to come in front. I think that it's time for a paradigm shift. And it's not competition that can help us move forward, but rather it's cooperation. I remember somebody who runs an industry telling me that they had been able to complete a project way before the target date. And another company that was doing a similar project was 6 months behind schedule. They had their plant commissioned and operational 6 months earlier, and the other one was 6 months later than scheduled, so they were a year behind. And he was telling me that this happened because within their whole team, there was the awareness of cooperation. So it wasn't egos coming in that was saying, I'm better and I have to prove that I'm better. But it was, well, this is what I think, what do you think? And so two coming together became 11, not just one and one makes two, but one and one working together makes 11. And
Yeah,
so,
but the kind of world we are living in, actually, in every scenario, talking about multinationals, companies, it's like there is competition not among multinationals but among employees. It's being created.
yeah.
Then there are prizes to be won, the best performer of the year. And then there's a cutthroat competition. There's another word, cutthroat competition,
Yeah,
which goes.
yeah.
So, but then how to combat that? That's what we are all living in.
I have to ask myself the question, do I want to be part of that scenario, or do I want to create a scenario which is different? Sometimes when the whole world is moving in one direction, then I get carried along in a stream of that. And if that's what I want, fine. But if I'm willing to take a step outside and watch what's going on, then I say, do I want to be a part of this? You spoke about cutthroat competition. That's what it is. Some people speak about the rat race. Well, I'm not a rat. Who am I racing with? Why should I be racing? I'm a human being. And the purpose of human life is to enjoy every moment in the presence of God and experience my own sanctity, my sacredness, and my divinity. That is what life is about. It's not to be fighting with somebody over pounds and pence and rupees and paisa. That's not what life is about. And so when I come to the realization of who I am and what the purpose of my life really is, then I say these things are not the things that are useful. These things are down below. Let me be up above. And in that state, really then life becomes a game. I'm seeing things happen, I'm seeing the drama ebb and flow, but I'm not trapped by any of those things. And so the way to go beyond competition is to be up above. I know that I don't need to compete with anyone.
Because I know. Yeah, that's the difference. Okay.
Each one is special and unique. And I know I'm special and unique too. And I don't need to compete with anybody else.
That's great, actually. The feeling that I know, no one else knows.
Well, it's wonderful if many more were to know.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
very
would also
true.
be good.
That's very true. But then again, I think that can help. That might help me because that's making me feel good. So I have to, if I know that who really am I and I'm living with that awareness, things might become easier.
I have a greater responsibility too. When I'm ignorant, I can do
Ignorance
what
is
I want.
bliss.
But when I'm aware, when I know, then there's a responsibility that I have to be able to fulfill the value of that knowledge. It has to be revealed in my life.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, from competition, we understand, we accept that if we want it, we should get into it. But if we understand that's not good, that's not going to lead us to where we really want to go, we can move away from that. But there's another factor which is still bothering me, and that is even if I don't realize, I do get greedy. I do want this, I do want that, I do want this. Even not in the materialistic aspect, but otherwise also.
It's a world in which everything's reached an extreme. You talked about the competition and so on. But in this case also, greed today has come to the point where it's like addictions are normal. The place where I live in London, addictions are normal. The place where I live in London, there's a shopping centre nearby, and the bus goes from wherever to that shopping centre. And the advertisements on the panel of the bus say, feed your addiction. And then on one poster it's got all silver accessories, and then on another one it's got all leather goods, and on another one it's got, things like this. And so people are actually promoting the whole concept of shopping is an addiction, but that's okay, feed your addiction. And so it's a crazy world, really crazy. And the problem with addiction with anything is that whether it's some type of food addiction, addiction to money, addiction to cars, addiction to shoes, these are some of the very common addictions, but also addiction to power, addiction to fame, addiction to recognition. Any of these things consume me. You know, we have this word consumer, and we think we're taking and consuming. But in fact, greed is consuming me. And I'll never find a moment of peace. I may think that once I've acquired this, it'll be fine. But bang, the addiction will come in again tomorrow or a few hours later. And I'll again want something else, something different, something more. So when you have spiritual knowledge, you start looking at what's going on and you say, the contentment that I can have in terms of my relationship with God and what God has given me is a contentment which stays with me and carries me towards my goal of happiness and doing something worthwhile for myself and for others. And if it's just simply a state of desire and greed for this, limited things, external things or emotional things, it's never going to be satisfied. There'll always be a desire for something more, just one.
But then, Sister Jayanti, it's like said that winning gives me high. I get a kick out of it. So with that adrenaline which flows, even if it's in sports, even if it's in a power game, even if it's professionally, even the addiction you're talking about, shopping. Shopping makes me, if I'm depressed, I go for shopping. Most of the women are going through that. So it's like how to handle that kick, that high which I feel. What to do with that,
By diverting it. And say, for example, if going shopping gives me a great kick, let me find some other way in which I can satisfy my own inner needs. This is a very external need, and I'm going to run out of money, I'm going to get into debt, which people do nowadays, and it's just going to cause me a lot of grief. That if I start doing something else, using my time, my energy in something which is worthwhile, so I'm diverting that energy away from that negativity into something else, and then I'll find that because I'm getting an excitement and a joy out of whatever new things I'm engaged in, something creative, then that'll take a back seat.
Yeah, that's true actually. The moment we get into something creative, all these negativities actually don't even pop up. But before we get into that remembrance experience with you again, there's another question which I have is like all these negativities are somewhere affecting our health, the emotions, not only the physical health, the mental health as well. That's a major impact which we at times don't even acknowledge. What's really happening to us?
Soul affects body, body affects soul. And so the state of mind is impacting my physical health. And the body now is being impacted by all the pollution and all the things that shouldn't be in our food, in our water, etc., etc. And so that's having an impact on the soul also. So it's a two-way connection of soul and body, body and soul. And yes, it's an acknowledged fact that some would say 85%, some would say 90%, but all the major illnesses that we have today, they're a direct result of some type of trauma that the soul has experienced. And so there's an effect of the psyche on the soma. And so, for example, the greed that I have, the competitiveness that I have, all of those can be linked to the things of hypertension, of coronary disease, of cancer, of asthma, you name it, and there's 1,001 things that are linked with the state of mind impacting the body. But if I can understand that I can take charge of allowing my mind to be peaceful and sending peaceful thoughts to the body, then if an illness has come, then in that state of peace, the body is going to recover far more quickly than it would have otherwise. But equally, if during an illness my mind is disturbed and fearful, then that illness is likely to be prolonged and it won't come to a conclusion so easily. And so it's a fact of psychosomatic illness. The other side is also true. The WHO statistics say that 1 in 4 every individual has some type of mental disorder. That's a lot of people. Just imagine you meet 4 people on the street and one of them has a problem.
Now, in fact, it can be me.
Exactly.
You never know, actually.
And I think it's because we've lost our spiritual power. There's been such a spiritual depletion that some today describe it as a spiritual bankruptcy. There's no more inner strength that's left. I might even be doing my puja and my diya and all these other things, but to what extent do I have faith? To what extent is there that deep love for God? Am I really aware of God being my protector and giving me blessings? So these things that actually give strength to the soul have been taken away from our lives. And so the order of life, the system of life, that's no longer functional at this point. And so it's time to say, okay, we've come down to this level. How can we again restore that balance? And so definitely in terms of treating mental disorders also, of course, if something reaches a severe point, seek professional help, whether for yourself or anybody that you know. But otherwise, a lot of things like loneliness, like a feeling of grief, like a feeling of mild depression, feeling alone, these things can be dealt with from a spiritual perspective. And if I have a friend who can share with me some spiritual ideas and some company, it can definitely bring about a change. But the basic realization is that it's the negativity of anger, of greed, of attachment, of ego that have drained the soul, and the soul in its empty state is now open to all sorts of influences.
Negativity. So before, the way I think couple of episodes back we talked about that world has taken over. It has entered us. So now time to move, let it go, and the real, I think, real qualities of my soul should come in.
Yeah.
So I think for a daily, experience of that aspect, I'll request you. So can we go ahead with that?
Sitting quietly, I visualize a spark of life, a spark of light in the center of the forehead. I let myself experience a sense of detachment from this body, like an observer stepping out of the house and watching what's happening to the house. I, the soul, the observer, with the power of my consciousness, move outside this home, this body of mine, and I observe what's going on. I see that my ego trapped me into the things of the physical dimension. And in soul consciousness, I've gone beyond ego. And truly, in that awareness of spirit, I'm now open to what it is that God wishes to give me. It's not my thought, it's not my desire, it's not what I want. I'm open. And what I feel is how God wants me to remove all my defects and weaknesses. God is the Almighty Authority. And from the Almighty, I take the might, the power and strength to be able to deal with whatever comes my way. I know that there are waves and forces of negativity that hit me, but my commitment is to Baba. And I know that as I keep this connection, as I remind myself of who I am and what it is I must do, I'll be able to stay above all the ups and downs of all others around. I stay holding this connection even as I come back to do the things that I need to do, but I keep this. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. A beautiful experience. And once again, it becomes easier to deal with all these emotions, which have been making me uncomfortable. And I think now it becomes easier to deal with my own emotions and with the emotions of people around me. Thank you so much, Sister Jayanti. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Comfort level is very important whenever we are in a relationship. And if we understand, maybe the awareness that the other person is also that pure soul is right now not settled in. But if we are able to look at my own negative emotions and are able to find out what is happening in my relationship, things might become easier and that comfort level will come. There must be many more questions you are waiting to ask. You're welcome. You can always call in or you can mail us.
If you wish to discuss your problem or have a question to ask or want to know your nearest Raj Yoga Meditation Center, call us on 099 99 744 555.
Awakening with Brahma Kumaris is an endeavor to reach out to as many people as possible and to let them know that reality is, the truth is eternal, and I am that beautiful, pure, powerful, peaceful soul. My connection with God can be a reality, it can be a dynamic relationship, and then with this awareness, I can have a peaceful and harmonious relationship with my people around. We'll be back with another episode of Awakening with Brahma Kumaris. Till then, have a wonderful and beautiful life. Take care. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.